Welcome to Design Your Destiny, your podcast for tapping into the power of your subconscious mind. In this next few minutes, allow me to show you how to tap into that power so that you can create success with ease, form deeper connections, and have greater presence in your relationships, and most importantly, find peace within yourself. My name is Penny Chason, and I'm your host. Hey, today I want to talk to you about stress. There is so much stress in the world right now, and I want to talk to you about eliminating stress and how it is about more than just taking things off of your list. Now, most people think about stress and they're thinking about work and their to-do list and all the things that need to be done, or maybe there's an argument or stress in a relationship, or maybe they're thinking money stress. And yes, all of those things are stressors. But I want to go so much deeper than that. The reality is that right now we are living in a world that is full of uncertainty. And the day that I am recording this, we are marking going into our third year of chronic stress. Now, if you consider that some people really get caught up in political stress, for some people, this is more than their third year. I guess it just depends on what you believe in and what news you watch and where you get your information, right? So let's just take a quick moment and talk about what is stress. Stress is nothing more than an activation of what we call the sympathetic nervous system, most commonly known by the average person as the fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, stress can be good, or stress can be bad. Either way, it involves the same chemical response. Short-term stress is actually good for you. So say, for instance, you're driving down the road and everything's pleasant and good in the world. You're driving down the road and all of a sudden somebody pulls out in front of you. You slam on the brakes. That is a very brief period of stress, and that is a good stress because it's very short-lived. But what it does is it activates your body system, it activates your immune system, it kicks everything into gear, and within a few minutes, your body begins to settle down, and the actual stress response, even though we feel better after a few minutes, it actually lasts quite a bit longer. But anyway, that is a single stress stimulus. That single stress stimulus could be the moment you say, I do. You're all excited. It's a good thing. You've been waiting for this day forever to get married to your sweetheart, your soulmate. So stress can also be something good. Also like riding a roller coaster, that excitement that activates your stress response. It's short term. It's short-lived. The problem comes in when we get chronically activated. Because when we get chronically activated, the body tips into an inflammatory state. When the body tips into inflammation, it's not just that instant stress, but we get cellular stress. We get oxidative stress. These are the things that really mess us up. 90% of all visits to the doctor's office, approximately, it depends on the study, 75 to 90%, is estimated to be due to stress-related symptoms. Heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, skin conditions, autoimmune, gut issues, asthma. I could really just go on and on and on at all of the things that are tied to this inflammatory response. That if you can get your inflammation under control, it helps you to manage and possibly even eliminate some of these things. There are case reports of people eliminating things like asthma, diabetes, and other issues, skin conditions, especially because it's more noticeable, through managing their inflammation, gut issues, through managing their inflammation. When you think inflammation, think stress. Now, most people know the obvious, right? You work in a high performance, a high stress work environment. You own or you run a business. Maybe you're a single parent and you have kids and you have to do everything. You're the only person in the household. You have to manage it all, and you're worried about money too. Are you ready for a breakthrough and an up level in your thinking and your ways of being and the way that you show up in your business or your life or your relationships, or heck, just even the way you feel about yourself? Then I want you to head over to the website and I want you to schedule your 90-minute breakthrough call. In this breakthrough call, we're going to talk about your goals, and then we're going to outline what needs to be released and the identity that is required for you to achieve your desired outcome. Once we've laid out that identity, we're going to use that, and with a process of subconscious coaching, intuition, and insight, I am going to set you on the path of getting the breakthrough that you need to move forward. In just 90 minutes, you can gain insight that allows you to move forward on your dreams, goals, and desires. Follow the link in the show notes or head over to pennychason.com to schedule your call today. Some of the things we don't think about, and this is the biggest one, is our diet. The foods that we put into our body can stress our body. Our bodies were not meant. We can consume processed sugar. You can consume beet sugar and cane sugar. Your body can digest it, but it's not meant to consume it in the quantities that we consume it in America. I don't know what it's like in other places in the world, but in America, just about any food that you go to on the shelf that is in any kind of box or packaging, unless it's artificially sweetened, it is going to have some kind of sugar in it. And even if it doesn't taste sweet, it's got sugar in it. That stresses our body. It stresses our pancreas and all the insulin production, and sugar promotes inflammation. As an aside to this, I'm going to tell you that cancers, they feed on sugar. They cannot metabolize fat. They cannot metabolize protein. They have to have pure sugar. So I encourage you to look that up. I'm not here to give you any healthcare advice, but definitely look at your sugar consumption if you're dealing with any inflammatory issue at all. Look at your sugar content. The other thing is look at artificial sweeteners. When I wrote my #1 international bestseller, Breaking the Fibro Code, Moving from a Life of Pain to Possibility, I found case reports where NutraSweet or aspartame was directly related to some cases of fibromyalgia. The person who had fibromyalgia traveled out of country. Where they went, there was no aspartame available. They had been diagnosed and treated for fibromyalgia, and while they're gone, all of a sudden, their symptoms disappear. When they come back home and consume their regular diet, the symptoms came back. So they went on a trial elimination. When they eliminated NutraSweet from the diet once again, the fibromyalgia symptoms went away. NutraSweet or aspartame crosses the blood-brain barrier, and nobody knows what it does when it's in the brain. But it is a chemical that changes the environment of the cells in the brain, right? So this is where we have to look at what we're putting into our bodies: dyes, chemicals, and artificial sweeteners, aside from things like sugar and flour. There are other environmental stressors like chemicals that we put on our body: skin creams, lotions, cosmetics, chemicals that might be sprayed out into the environment, the quality of lights, right? So right now, as I'm recording this, I have a couple of light boxes on, diffusion boxes. But sometimes when you're working in really bright fluorescence, or if you were in front of blue light all day, that can stress your body. Sounds can be stressful. When I worked in the operating room, when we would do spine surgery, Sometimes you would have two x-ray machines in the room, and when they're turned on, they make a baseline level of noise. When you have the ventilator going, it's a baseline level of noise. The cautery machines, the suction, all of these things going. There would be days that about 6-7 hours into my 10-hour day, I would just really want to just like step out into the hall and scream because the noise pollution was stressing my body. If you have a physical injury, that's stress, a cut, a bruise, you bump, get knocked, whatever. That makes sense, right? The stress response is actually meant to put our body in a position to heal itself in case of physical injury. That's what the stress response is. Aside to give us the energy and the focus to be able to run from the bear or the tiger that's chasing us. These high pressure environments that I talked about earlier, I mentioned there, you might be the single parent with kids, or maybe you work in a very high stress job, demands, deadlines, you're dealing with people who aren't easy to work with. All of these things create emotional stress, which activates our stress response. Then we have the mental stress that comes from maybe we don't have the resourcefulness, right? We can get so overloaded and so overwhelmed. We don't have the resourcefulness to call in people to help us. We can't see a solution and a way out of it. And then that begins the internal thinking and the internal dialogue and the worry. And worry is mental stress. Worry about future events. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a future event and what's happening right now. So if you're worrying about something really bad and really negative, you're activating your stress response through emotional stress by thinking about it. Mental stress comes from personal expectations. What were you taught to think and believe and expect in certain situations? How people should treat you, what you need to do to be accepted by people. Are you working with someone who has a personality or a tone of voice that triggers you because you've had a past experience where you dealt with someone similar? Well, now not only is this person stressing you, but every time you interact with that person, your brain is going through the Rolodex of your mind and going, oh, this has happened before. And it amplifies that stress because it really wants to avoid that situation because it's experienced the pain before. So when we have unprocessed emotions around unpleasant events, or, we have these repeating patterns in our life, and then we have these expectations emotionally, whether they're positive or negative, surrounding those events, that amplifies our stress. So what's a person to do? To the degree that you can, manage your diet. Get on a healthy sleep schedule and unplug from the news. Unplug from the news, unplug from negative social media. Social media can be very uplifting. You just have to curate your feed. Make sure that you have a support system. Find someone that you can talk to. Maybe you need to reach out to a support group. There are crisis lines that you can reach out to if you just need a place to unleash and let go, right? They will help walk you through that. Your routines can support you, or your routines can be overstuffed and crammed and actually not be supportive at all. Take a step back and look and see, okay, let me prioritize things. What is a hair on fire? It has to get done like the kids have to eat, right? Versus, I've got to take an extra 15 minutes and run by the post office and put this letter in the mail, when you could simply do it the next morning when you're actually going to be going past the post office on your way on another trip. So it's about choice and choosing. You can engage in what's called conscious breathing. Conscious breathing is not just about feeling your breath and experiencing your breath. There is a way to do it that actually engages your parasympathetic nervous system, your vagus nerve, increases your vagal tone. Some of these things might ring a bell for you. It engages your relaxation response. which short circuits inflammation if you use it every day. You have to use it on a regular basis. You can short circuit that inflammation. Your cortisol levels can come back up and return to baseline if you're experiencing adrenal fatigue or low cortisol levels. So that's key. It's something that we can do every day. Just in recording this podcast, I have been so out of sync with what is considered a natural mode of breathing. If you ever watch babies breathe, they breathe with their bellies. It's the way that we're meant to breathe. We're meant to breathe into our abdomen. I'm about to get off track, so let me bring myself back. To the degree that you can, prioritize diet, abdominal breathing, and really allow yourself to be aware of places that you're creating stress in your life that you can minimize that stress. What are some situations that you can change? What are some expectations you can change? What is some thinking that you can change? Because your thoughts activate your stress response. If your thoughts are negative, if they're stress, they're worry. Remember, your brain, your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between real and imagined. So anyway, I probably really should have broken this out into 2 or 3 episodes, but I just really wanted to get it in here because this is important and your health is important, especially if you want to enjoy the success that you've created, if you want to enjoy the freedom that you're in the process of creating. If you find yourself in a job where you don't have that freedom, I challenge you, how can you be creative and get some freedom in your life? Because the tides are changing and there are a lot of people really embracing the idea of holistic business practices and what it looks like to have a supportive environment, even at the executive level. So there's no need to constantly be in do mode. You can be in your being and enjoy your life. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye now. Thank you for listening today. If you've enjoyed this episode of Design Your Destiny, I would appreciate it if you would head over to iTunes and leave a positive review. When you leave a positive review, it's like podcast currency, and we can increase our reach and get the message to even more people that they, just like you, have the ability to design their destiny. And remember, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.